Hello and welcome to the 9th year of Soil Farmer. Who just thought we'd have made it here all these years ago? 9 years. So yes, welcome Soil Farmer 2024. Thank you all so much for bearing the heat and coming to see us and find out all about our wonderful farmers from this year's competition. So for those who don't know, the Soil Farmer of the Year competition is designed to find and promote the best of our UK farmers and growers. So people who are really championing their business resilience with soil at the heart of what they're doing. So the competition is designed to bring farmers together so we can share practice and innovation and learn from what's going out on farm. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce who we've got up on stage. My name is Emma, and it's my absolute pleasure to be the facilitator of this competition. I'm from the Farm Carbon Toolkit, and with me, I have got Jade Prince, who is the soil specialist at Hutchinson's. I have Paul Totterdell, who is the general manager at Cotswold Seeds. And I've also got Deborah Crossan, who is the head of soils and natural resources at Innovation for Agriculture. And these three lovely people have been along the whole way with us of the competition, and very kindly, Hutchinson's and Cotswolds have sponsored the competition for very many years. So thank you very much to our sponsors. Innovation for Agriculture, with Deb at the helm, have also been our strong partners throughout the competition, helping us to liaise and find our farmers and run through all of the process. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jade to give a bit of an oversight of what Hutchinson's do with Soil Farmer.
Brilliant, thanks Emma. Yeah, Hutchinson's really proud to be sponsor of Soil Farmer of the Year again this year. It's the 4th year we've sponsored it, and we have no intention of stopping supporting such a fantastic event. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's the first time I've sort of judged the whole process, and it's been an absolute pleasure to read through and judge all of the applications that were received. So thank you to everyone who took the time to apply. It's a fantastic competition, providing an opportunity for farmers to really shout from the rooftops about all the fantastic things that they're doing with their soils. So yeah, really looking forward to hearing further from our 3 winners today and later in the year when we have some organised farm walks. So I hope that as many of you as possible will be able to join us at those events. Hopefully you'll all agree that it's the perfect opportunity to learn from others and other people's experiences. So I won't talk for too long. I'd just like to finish by thanking Farm Carbon Toolkit for arranging such a fantastic competition, keeping soils top of the agenda exactly where they should be. So thank you.
And over to you. Oh, thanks everyone. So kind. And over to you, Paul. Before Paul starts, we have to say a big thank you to Cotswolds because they provide the prize for our soil farmers. So without Cotswolds, we wouldn't have a lovely prize to give. So thank you, Paul.
Pleasure, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And I say it every year, but it really is it's just a lovely, genuine competition to be involved with. I think it's a really interesting time in agriculture. There's a lot going on at lots of different levels. When I say interesting time, sometimes that's positive and sometimes negative. But I think in the case of this competition, there's more and more focus on what's going on underneath our feet. And I think it can be out of sight, out of mind. It's so easy to focus on what's going on above the ground and not focus on what's going on underneath. So I think competitions like this, organisations like the Farm Carbon Toolkit, all of the people that applied to take part in the competition, the finalists, they are all responsible for keeping us at the sharp end of understanding the importance of soil. And at a time when so many people are getting involved with it, there's more encouragement than ever. The movement is gaining momentum. And if we don't have competitions like this, if we don't have people that are achieving so much, by really putting their neck out there, they're really taking risks to achieve these goals. I think it's really, really important that we recognise that. And like I said, competitions like this, organisations like the Farm Carbon Toolkit, if they weren't there, we wouldn't have the momentum that we have today. So I think it's vital that we carry on that support. And as Jade has said, we'll be carrying on supporting this competition for as long as we possibly can. And 9 years,
I know,
9 years, that's fantastic. It just goes to show how successful it is. So thank you for everybody that's been involved with the competition so far. I wasn't at all the judging events, I'm afraid. My colleagues helped out as well. So it was a team effort. But thank you so much, Farm Carbon Toolkit, and for all the hard work that you're doing. And most importantly, the farmers, you're sticking your neck on the line, and there's a lot to lose. But you're doing it and you're proving that it works. And that is just being, the fact that we've always got a fantastic choice of entrants. And so it's just such a pleasure to be exposed to you guys and just being humbled by you, really. So thank you for what you do. It's really, really important.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'd just like to hand over, before we do present our awards to this year's winners, to Deb, who, as I say at the beginning, from Innovation for Agriculture, our partner throughout this competition, just to give a few notes on your role in the competition and also the judging process for any eager soil farmers for next year.
Thanks, Emma. Well, I was extremely lucky because I worked for Innovation for Agriculture at just the right time when David Gardner resigned and handed this mantle over to me. So I'm very grateful to him for that because it's been so enjoyable. And really, just to tell you a little bit about how you might be inspired by today before we get to the winners, and talk a bit about the process. So this next year will open on World Soils Day, which is the 5th of December, and you can enter the competition at any point through until March when it closes. And I really would encourage, if you've got some ambition or inspired today, to go and do that. It is really made possible by the enthusiasm and passion from the farmers that enter this competition, and it wouldn't be what it was without that, and the fantastic cohort that are now following on from the winners over the 9 years. Once you've got your entry in, either by yourself or somebody might recommend you, you will then hear from us, because there's a mixed group of very professional, experienced judges that go through all of the entries. So it is quite robust. And from those entries, we will choose a group of people which are then interviewed online. So that's not at all scary. That's like a fool's gallery, I'm sure. And we speak to you all, and then you will have a face-to-face viewing where you get the chance to show off your farm and what you're doing to a group of judges that come round. And that is a really friendly and enjoyable process. So really, I would encourage you to do that, to jump in, join this cohort and drive this competition forward. It really is a whole lot of fun, but there's a lot of talent and expertise behind it. So thank you very much to everyone that joins in with this fantastic competition and gives it the support that it deserves. Thank you.
Yes, and I would really like to echo, as you said, Deb, just a huge thank you to anyone who has taken the time to complete an application, show us around your farm and listen to all of our hundreds and hundreds of questions about your business. It's so appreciated, and it really is the spirit of this competition. So thank you very much to all of our entries. And with that, we should get to prize giving. So I'm going to hand over to Paul to announce the results. Jade's going to very kindly hand out the trophies, and I'm going to hope to get everything in the right order in the meantime. So bear with me on the logistics.
Okay, so without further ado, sorry about the pause. So in third place, Soil Farmer of the Year award, third place goes to Ben Richards from Cornwall. Congratulations. Well done. Second place, Ed Horton, Gloucestershire. Congratulations. And first place, David Newman, Tracy Russell from Buckinghamshire. Well done. Congratulations. Well done. This is on.
Hello. Oh, hi. So congratulations to all our farmers who've just speedily gone and sat down. Could you come back, please, and say thank you very much to our judges for this year and for a lovely prize giving. So we'll leave you in peace.
Thank you.
we're on. Is everybody sitting comfortably? Hopefully not too hot as of yet. So, a fantastic cohort of soil farmers, and I hope everyone in the audience is going to pick up how exciting this quite is and the diversity that we have before us in the range of farming systems and scales and businesses. So, without further ado, my first question is, Tracy, could you fire us in? Could you give me an overview of your farm?
I'm going to let David do that bit.
We're on? Yeah?
Yeah, hopefully.
So we're market gardeners in Buckinghamshire. Been growing veg for 20 years. Been a gardener for 50 years, which is much more my life. And been working on the scale.
The question was the scale.
The scale or the operation.
Overview, just overview.
Yeah. So we're an unusual system because we only actually produce a cash crop 1 year in 4, and the rest of the time we're actually fertility building. So we start off, if you like, our cash crop year, and then we live in mulches with our cash crop, and then we do herbal lays for the next 3 years, and then we go back around and start again with our vegetables. So we've got, in that system, 2 acres of open field crops every year, and that means there's 6 acres fertility building and another acre of polytunnels, also in the same cinema system. That's
amazing. Could I just, as a bonus little question for you, could you give me a very high level overview of all the things you're growing? Because it's a fantastically long list.
And we did have a little rhyme at one time.
We
used
did
to
have
do
a
for
little
the kids.
rhyme.
So about 40 different crops in
So-
this market garden, and in the salad mix there's at least a dozen leaves in each salad mix.
So everything from aubergines and broccoli to cabbages and cauliflowers to damsons and elderberries to...
So
We
got
could
some
go all the way
agroforestry as
through the
well.
alphabet. So yeah, over 40 different crops. So in the summer, in the polytunnels, we've got sweet potatoes, aubergines, peppers, chilies, melons, tomatoes, and then in the winter that will all be baby leaf salad. But in the summer, the baby leaf salad is outside. So and we rotate them along. So every year the tomatoes move along one tunnel, the beans move along one tunnel, the new potatoes move along one tunnel, so that you're endlessly replenishing the soil,
Different crops.
putting different crops in, drawing different nutrients out.
So we went to a talk earlier on, which Guy Singh was talking, and he was talking about the lack of potato producers. And we're quite pleased this year because our new potatoes, although we were a month late, we turned around new potatoes in the polytunnel in 74 days, which is quite impressive. It was a difficult season, and it is a difficult season so far, but it's promising now. You know, the sun's come out at last.
So from one hugely complicated system to another, Ed, could you give us an overview of what you're getting up to?
Yes, absolutely. We are at the other end of the spectrum. We are relatively large-scale mixed farming operation based in Gloucestershire. We have a herd of beef cattle, which my father is here somewhere. His pride and joy. He would love it to just be cows. I fill the space that isn't covered in cows with arable crops. We run a predominantly no-till, but I like to call it a hybrid system because we don't stick by one hard and fast rule. Still, I have to say this, and sitting here, I might get egged for this. We still own a plough and we still use it occasionally because sometimes it's the best thing to do. We have a lower input system, so we've removed fungicides and herbicides predominantly from our system, replaced fungicides with the use of sheep grazing. We use 65% of our nitrogen comes in the form of slurries and manures from cattle and pigs. We are inter-row hoeing instead of using herbicides, and not this year because obviously we've had a slightly dodgy cropping year, but we can have up to 15 different combinable crops in our arable system. So you're looking at diversity, removing inputs, and whilst doing all of that, trying to build our organic matters in our predominantly thin, drought-prone Cotswold brash soils.
Amazing, thank you very much. Now, Ben, could you tell us about what you're getting down to in Cornwall?
Pretty basic, really, Emma. Yeah, farming 300 acres down on the Lizard, down in Cornwall. Clay soils, downs land, basically. Been organic milking cows since 2018. Can't get an organic milk contract. So I'm being paid bugger all like everyone else is for the milk at the moment. Been herbal lays right the way through. The first herbal lay in 17. We don't plough nothing. I got a herd of pigs over that do that. So we outwinter the cows on any ground that needs reseeding. The cows are outwintered on it. The pigs go in behind the cows. And when the pigs come out, you go straight in with the seed. So there's no mechanical cultivation going on. The soils have been coming alive ever since we changed over and stopped using chemicals. And anyone who's regeneratively farming with chemicals isn't regeneratively farming, full stop. Opened argument on that one. But year on year, I mean, we reduced the fertiliser usage over a period of time and replaced it with compost. So I built the compost levels in the soil up before we stopped using nitrogen completely. Still suffered for 2 years while the ground was getting adjusted to it. But now I'm 100%. The soils are back living again and they're doing what they need to do. Currently, I'm trying to get the soils to turn from bacterial to fungal. So I'm experimenting with grazing trees. We planted them this winter, which was a bit of a challenge. But they're up and running, and the plan is, as of next year, we'll start grazing them rotationally with the herbal lay. So.
Amazing. Said it was a simple system. Doesn't sound very simple to me.
Trying to be input free, Emma. That's the plan. Yeah. I don't want to buy nothing off no one. Simple.
I was just going to say this was probably the favourite competition that we've ever gone for, because when the judges came out, they not only dug bits of the soil, they got their hands straight in the compost heap and started sniffing. And it's like, anybody who's going to sniff the compost heap is the kind of judge I want on my land.
For anyone who was wondering, yes, that was Stuart Johnson. So there we go. Ben, I'm going to come straight back to you. What have you found the most rewarding outcome of your system and following that changeover?
Everything's fallen into place, to be fair. I mean, I haven't used a vet on the cows for 8 years. I have to vaccinate for salmonella because we had an issue with that a long time ago. And dead cows aren't very entertaining, so we do vaccinate for salmonella. And the only other thing I treat for is lungworm as and when it appears. Rest of the time, don't do nothing. The cows are fit and healthy. We're breeding our cows in 3 weeks. 90% are in calf in the first 3 weeks with nothing, and no external interference. I haven't picked the cow's foot up for about 5 years. Everything starts from the soil. The animal is the end result of that. If your animals are healthy, your soils are right. And the better my soils get, the healthier my animals are. So the main instigator obviously is to have healthy animals. But the knock on from that, insect life and the way the soils come alive is and it's improving every year. It's getting better and better. So, I'm seeing more beetles. You get more worms, you get more birds. Everything's there. They're all there serving a purpose. They're all helping me and helping my cows. So, yeah.
Amazing. The way it should be. Ed, what have you found the biggest challenge in your journey so far?
I mean, that's a really unfair question because there are so many. Changing a system so drastically from what was a very conventional, very boring system, as it were. You could write the cropping plan for the next 15 years in 5 minutes. To what we do now has been a huge challenge, and it has not all gone smoothly. I've had many failings and many things that I've put white canes around and called an experiment or a trial. That's arable farmer go-to. Long fiberglass canes can hide any manner of sins and call it a trial and say that agronomy company was in charge of it. Or put an electric fence around it and graze it, or mow it and put it in a silage clamp. Those are the other get out of jail free cards in our system. I think the biggest challenge has been, for me, getting my head, and this is something that my father will agree with because it was his idea to start with, was putting sheep into very good looking cereal crops in January, February. When agronomically speaking, the best thing you could ever do, soil health speaking, one of the best things you can do to remove your fungicide usage and remove your growth regulator usage by using livestock and cycle nutrition naturally. As a farmer, when you've got a really good looking crop of wheat, the last thing you want to see is 1,000 wet, scabby lambs wandering around inside of it. That has been my hardest challenge, to make that shift from a conventional arable farmer, as it were, to what we do now. So the mindset shift on that front has been the biggest challenge for me.
Amazing. So David and Tracy, I don't mind who answers, do it as a combo if you like. What or who did you find the most helpful throughout your journey of growing veg and all of these things to getting here on the stage for Soil Farmer?
Growing veg is interesting because I've been growing veg obviously all my life, so I was always inspired to grow veg. I used to run the garden at the school when I was a teenager and that sort of thing. And so the growing veg is pretty easy, and I've always experimented and want to grow more and more different crops. So that's why we've got such a range, because it creates that interest. The inspiring bits and things we've changed, I wouldn't say anyone's particularly inspired us, it's just keep experimenting, and we don't fear the experiments, basically. You always, and particularly with growing vegetables, you always know you're going to get some failures, and so you never expect to get all 40 crops to be the best to get to harvest. So you have to accept that, if you get 35 of them to harvest, you've done quite well. And living mulch is a good example that we did last year. It was our second year playing with that with living mulches, and we went quite heavy at it, and some of the crops didn't work with it. And so we didn't get many leeks, celery or celeriac. But we learnt a lot from that, and we won't do that system again. So, but I think I wouldn't say there's too many challenges. It's just a case of keep experimenting and see what you can do, And as Ben says, the inputs is what you want to get rid of, the costs. If you can get them down, your system. I used to work in mainstream agriculture with livestock and arable, and I was horrified at how little the farmer was getting, and I was a farm manager, and so my whole goal was to get away from that and set my business up so I was doing everything from the growing to the marketing, and so I don't have to have a big business suddenly. I can market everything at the best price. That's been our really biggest thing, and build that market. And it's taken us 20 years, and in the last 10 years we've got to a scale where we've stopped advertising. We don't push our business anymore because we have a farm shop. We sell all our produce.
And I think the customers and the interaction of directly talking to a customer saying, I picked that an hour ago, or hang on a minute, we're just out of spinach, but I'm going to ring David, he's in the field, and he'll get one of the youngsters to run up. So if you go and stand by the farm gate, your spinach will be picked in about 2.5 minutes. And the feedback that you get feeds that motivation to keep doing it, and sort of saying, no, we've run out of this today, but we've just picked a load of goosefoot. Did you know that goosefoot is wild spinach? It's going to be more nutritionally dense. It tastes amazing. Have a taste of a leaf, and we're doing this with it and that with it, and this is how we're cooking it. And all of a sudden, people will try new things, and then they come back for more. So yeah, we get it's a really nice positive feedback loop once you can start direct retailing to people rather than sort of sending stuff out there and hoping that somebody does something nice with it. And we would never let any other shop have our salad because they might squish it. They might not put it at the top of the basket. They might, we invested 20 years in growing that. Don't squash it. And I have been known to pounce out in the farm shop and go, no, put it at the top of your basket. Don't do that.
You've just mentioned the word circular or circle, loop. Your business, when we came round, I was really, really impressed and sort of stunned at how nothing is wasted on the farm, and the farm's so considered. I just wondered if you could touch on things like compost and football nets and all the other fun innovations you've got with polytunnels and everything else on the farm.
Yeah, so obviously we have green waste from the vegetable business, which is composted. We work with a local brewery, so we have spent hops, which we also add to our compost heap. And then we have arborists that bring us wood chips. So we create compost in a big open bay, which feeds our crops. And then in talking about repurposing materials, we're not very good at spending money, so we tend to get things for free. So football nets as netting to grow beans up or cucumbers.
They don't get as tangled as that awful plastic stuff you buy on a roll. It doesn't break. You haven't got all the football net. You take it down, you drop it in an old potato sack at the end of the season. You pull it out the next year. It's not knotted. You're not cursing. You're not doing that whole windy thing and shouting at one another. It's just ta-da. Yeah, cucumbers, beans, loofahs. They all love nets. And then this year we've started growing the cucumbers inside our little experimental ETFE tunnel to use them as shade for the crops that are on the tables. So yeah, again, not only nothing wasted, but using crops to support other crops and shade other crops.
No, amazing. It's very, very impressive. So Ben, I'm going to come. Ben, I'm going to come back round to you. What would you, because I know you've got a lot of opinions on this one, what would you consider are the barriers to other farmers of running a business the way you do and focusing on your soil to start with?
Finance and passion, basically. You've got to be passionate about it. You've got to see the end result that you're going to get, but you've got to be able to afford to do it. It's you take a hit when you go from chemical farming to organic farming, or chemical input free or chemical free farmer, you want to call it. There's a 2-year gap there where when we changed over, I didn't think we was ever going to grow anything ever again, because your soils are starved of the chemical, but they haven't quite, the bacteria haven't got their head around it yet of not, having to deal with that chemical side of things. Once you turn the corner, you're up and away, but you've got to have, well, ideally you'd have an organic milk contract, and then that would give you the finances in order to get through it. But as I'm not privileged enough to have one of them, I've had to do it off my own back. You've got to prepare yourself. You've got to prepare the ground. You can't go cold turkey with it. You need to wean yourself in, and wean yourself out and wean yourself in, to try and negate that 2-year hit you're going to have of lost production. Having some money in your bank would be nice if you could afford, if you had some there to get you through that period. Once you start coming out the other side, everything comes together. I've been at it for a long time, so I had the right cow. I know my soils, and I knew what I needed to do to get there. I'm third generation on my farm, so I also have my father's and my grandfather's knowledge to back me up as well, even though neither of them are here. But what they've taught me over the years rings around in the back of my head. But you just commitment, basically. This is what you need, 100% commitment, and follow your path. Don't get deviated by someone coming and trying to sell you something.
Very much so. I'm going to give you another question as well, just whilst you're on it. You mentioned earlier about the trees that you're integrating into the farm.
Yeah.
Could you give me a bit of an overview of how you are integrating trees into like the dairy system overall and the benefits that's bringing?
I want to look at trees because we're suffering summer dries at the minute. It's extremely wet, and then you get a cut off and it just goes dry. The herbal A's are coping, but not coping as well as I'd hope them would. A tree grows nice and tall, so basically what I'm trying to do is maximise dry matter production off my farm, which is also going to give me soil benefits. So I got some advice. This all been funded by Forest for Cornwall, so I had to give them a little mention. They pay for the trees. I would have done it a lot earlier if I could have got someone else to pay for them. But they stumped up the money for the trees. I've designed the system along with Steve Evans, who come along and helped me with it. I got to wait 2 years before I can start grazing them. And I didn't even know if the cow was going to eat them yet. So we've got to wait and see. I've been told they'll definitely eat them. But if they don't, then hey-ho, I've got some firewood on my... But I've planted them, they're basically 1.5 metre, 2 metre rows. They're single species rows because, as Steve told me, if you've got multiple species and the cows only like certain ones, then you've got half a row they like and half a row they don't. So if you put a row of willow, a row of poplar, they eat the willow and don't eat the poplar, you grab the poplar out and put willow in. Simple. If you've got mixed rows, you're stuffing the job. They're 12 metres between the rows. My thought is that's close enough for the trees to start talking to each other. Also, it'll be close enough for those trees to drain the ground that they're planted in between. It's a very wet farm. I know everyone thinks they've got a wet farm or a crap farm or a hard farm, but I can assure you my farm is wet. It is referred to locally as the bog farm. I am a bog farmer. I haven't written a song about it yet, but you get stuck. You don't worry about Wellingtons because you'll sink past them. So, but you have to farm the land you've got, and willow grows pretty well anywhere you like. It grows really well down our way because it's wet. So the nutritional value of these trees is comparable or surpasses the majority of pasture crops. It's pulling up nutrients from deeper in the ground. You're getting a deeper root structure. We got, at best, a foot of topsoil, and then we're on clay. At worst, an inch of topsoil and 8 foot of clay. So, we need something that's going to get down through that pan. The trees are going to do that. They'll sort the job out. The herbal lays have done a really good job so far, but I like to try different things, so I thought I'd give the trees a go. The earliest herbal lay ground, we used to get a lot of standing water in the winter. We don't get that no more. It soaks the water up, and we're getting better water retention through the summer on the ground that's had the herbal lays in for a longer period of time. Yeah, it's very much a trial job with the tree job. I got another load to plant this winter. I would rather have waited 2 years and get them grazing, so I know exactly what I'm going to plant. But who knows? If it works, I'll put it across the whole farm. No issues with that, if it works. But it's going to be 5 years before I decide whether it's working or not. Yeah. But yeah, happy to sell anyone the idea if they want to come pay me some money.
Indeed. Ed, I'll come to you. So with the business, was there ever a point of your journey of moving from sort of a conventional arable system into where you are now? Was there ever a point you sort of questioned what you were doing? And if so, what made you persevere with it, other than blaming the agronomist or whoever else was on farm if everyone it had gone wrong?
Yes, there were many times where I questioned what we were doing. When your first year we grew buckwheat as a crop on a failed block of wheat, and we put it in nicely, did everything I was supposed to do, then got hit by the world's latest frost, and we lost 20% of plants immediately, and I went, all right, well, that was a waste of time. And then we thought we could try and keep it clean enough without any herbicides, and it filled with other, how should we call it, arable flowers. Be polite PR about cleavers and groundswell. And then it got to harvesting because we can't desiccate it because it was a seed crop and it's buckwheat. We were then combining what was effectively green standing compost through the internal organs of a very expensive and not really designed for it combine. Going, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I said, why am I doing this? Then blokes driving the combine pointed out that I was going to clean the sieves because it was my idea.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so most of the things we've done at some point I've had a mild sense of panic about it somewhere. My dad doesn't want to hear this because I tell him it's all going to be fine and wonderful and say it with enough confidence, and he luckily lets me get on with it. Always try something on a small scale first. And buckwheat was one of those things. It went into a field where we took out 4 hectares because of some awful blackgrass and some flooding, and it wasn't really a viable crop. Put in some buckwheat, tried it, went, you know what, it's not for me. I don't have the stress levels to cope with this, so we'll leave that alone. It's not like I'd put in 400 acres and was having a real mild panic. And what kept me going through that is the fact that I knew if I didn't change our system and didn't make us more resilient, then there wouldn't be a business there for me to work in anyway. If we carried on the way we were doing that horrible thing of going, oh, it's fine, next year will be better. Every year. Just not a particularly long-term solution to anything. And so changing our system, making us more resilient, removing our reliance on external inputs, having more control over what we do, and building long-term sustainability into our soils. Yes, I'm not going to see the full benefit of it, but the generation that follow me hopefully will, and can hopefully build on that, going forwards. It's not something that happens overnight. We've been at this for long enough, and our soil organic matter levels are growing. But I'm not going to turn our farm into the Fens in the next 5 years, sadly. It's still going to be rubbish Cotswold brash.
Fabulous. So I think with that, what we can do is open up to our fabulous audience who keeps on growing every time I look up. So that's perfect. Kirsty's got a roving mic. So if anyone has a question, hands in the air, and we'll get them to our lovely panel. Who's going to ask the first question? Paul, right in front.
This is a question for everybody, and please just jump in with an answer. Ben, you mentioned that when you first started your journey, you had to take a bit of a hit for a few years on your finances. And also there's been comment of, how you tried the buckwheat, and, you thankfully it was only on a small scale, and good advice. If there are lots of people out there that look at the idea of regenerative agriculture, which is different for everybody, as you've said, all your journeys are very different. And there's a lot of fear about what they would be getting themselves in for. What would you say to those people who have those concerns, particularly of the financial ones, about entering into regenerative agriculture? What would you say to these people to try and convince them that perhaps it is a good choice?
You're losing money now, so give it a go. You aren't going to lose no more.
I think I'd throw in there, I think a global pandemic taught us all that we have no idea what tomorrow is going to throw at us. And actually, farmers were amongst the most resilient people in the pandemic, because we've always known that there might be a hurricane tomorrow, it might wipe out 4 of my polytunnels, there might be a flood, there might be drought. You can't rely on the fact that just because you got the best seed and put it in the best plot and tended it in the best way that you could, that you're going to make money out of that. But because we always knew that, we were ready to change and adapt and try different things and spread the load across lots of different crops and look at different markets. For us, as the lockdown hit, we lost 70% of our business because it was restaurants and they shut. And the same day, the entire village turned up to come shopping. The restaurants were buying 30 kilos of baby leaf salad a week, and that wasn't necessarily what Joe Public wanted to eat in March. But it gets bigger, you sell it as different things. So, yeah, what have you got to lose? We don't know what tomorrow's going to throw, so try.
I think it also doesn't have to be, you don't have to go from one extreme, you should never go from one extreme to the other. You can start with really small, easy baby steps and work out what works for you, because it's all well and good listening to some expert extol the virtues of their system or their product if it happens to be a salesman. But actually what works for you might be totally different to what works for everyone else. What works for me on our farm does not work for someone literally 15 minutes away. They don't have our access to livestock, and actually for them, building a 5,000 place indoor pig unit, having a 200 head herd of beef cattle, is not something you can financially do to get the benefits out of it. That's something that we had at our disposal and have utilised. So I think it's one of those things of look at your own farm, but incremental little things can all build up to make a big change. And it's not the fact that you just have to do everything whole hog in year one and go, right, well, I've seen something about this, so that's what I'm going to do. Is, find your own niche and work at it quietly.
In 22, when we actually got paid for our milk, I made an absolute killing, because the milk price went up off the back of fertiliser going up, fuel going up. I didn't use no fertiliser, don't use bugger all fuel. I got pigs, they don't need no bloody tractors, So when the milk price was good, I made an absolute killing. Now the milk price has turned to crap because the fertiliser and all's come back. Now I'm on the back foot now, because the boys that are using fertiliser are getting it cheap enough now to balance it all up. You see what I mean? That's not an input I'm using. So the milk price crashing is really making me suffer big time. More so than someone who, because nitrogen's at £300 a tonne. I can go out and grow a load more grass now because I'm putting more nitrogen on it. They're on a winner, if you see what I mean. But when their input prices go up, I'm on a winner. So put all your fertiliser prices up, you lot, and I should be a happy man.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. The Soil Farmer of the Year has done another excellent job at getting 3 winners from mixed diversity of systems and sectors. Could you guys each share one piece of inspiration for that drove your passion in soil health from each of the sectors, whether it's dairy, beef and arable, and market gardening, and whether that be a book, someone who you've worked with, another farmer maybe, but
Frank Newman Turner was the man that inspired me more than anyone else. He's the only bloke that would give me information that I needed to go take the journey I've gone on. They weren't trying to sell me something. The whole system is so less reliant on inputs. If there's no cash to be had out of the job, people aren't interested in promoting it. I had to go back to a book that was written in 1952. I think he wrote his book. Might have been earlier than that. Big inspiration. I had to read it 3 times to get my head around it. But I've adapted what he's recommended, if you see what I mean. I just took on his mindset. let the animals decide what plant they want to eat. If the animals are happy, the plant's the right job. It just goes on, if you saw what I mean. I'm a firm believer that you can't have good soil without animals on it, unless like what you guys are doing. That's your green waste composting and all that side of things.
Someone brings sheep in for us.
Yeah, so you're still utilising.
We have to manage that.
No. So
we have the best animals. They're someone else's, but they're on our ground. Not our responsibility.
You don't have to chase them when they run away.
If the sheep jump the electric fence, we phone them up and say, one of your sheep's got out. It's perfect. Everybody needs someone else's sheep.
I think for me, and ironically, I'm going to say that it's actually my agronomist who I think filled out the form for me to be here today, because it was a strange email that I got from Emma at some point in March going, well done, you've been selected. It's like, for what? I've done nothing.
Yeah, that was the happy surprise, wasn't it? Having Toby in on the email.
My agronomist from Hutchinson's, and this isn't a sales pitch for Hutchinson's because they're sponsoring this, and I hope I'm not just put in here because I'm going to say this. There's some sort of plant, I promise.
No, very much not, in case
anyone worries, I'm not paid for by Hutchinson's yet. My agronomist. I think he got bored of me whining about how crap my soil was and turned around to me one day and said, in a slightly less polite way than I'm going to phrase it now, why don't you just do something about it? And I said, but how? Being a useless farmer, going, oh, just give me the idea on a plate. And he went, well, go and get on with things. Learn. My agronomist was the person who kicked me out the backside to start doing something different.
So I don't know if anyone's particularly inspired. I've met lots of people over the years and looked at lots of systems, and as I worked in mainstream agriculture as well, and I wasn't comfortable where that was going, and so I've over the years just developed a system I thought was the way to go and experimented. I think that was really how I came by where we find ourselves today, and from the results kept going and then just kept tweaking it.
Yeah, we do read a lot of books about farming, and we do talk a lot about what we're doing. I think one of the things that most inspires me is engaging people with food. So when I met David, I was working on a project in a prison, getting prisoners to grow food, and most of them have never had their hands in the soil. They'd never seen things grow that you could eat. And I can remember stepping out of the walled garden one day with one of the prisoners going, oh my God, you should come in here, you should see it, like this is serious work. Miss can do like 20 squats in a row, and the peas grow in little pockets and you can just eat them straight out of a pocket. It's awesome. And we keep that engagement going with kids in the shop. So we run a little course called Young Growers once a month, and we'll get the kids planting peas and pea shoots, and then we'll make pea shoot pesto with them, and we'll get them tasting different things. And kids will try most things, particularly if they've grown it. And then you find parents who go, I could try a nettle crisp. Yes. Why? Oh, wow. They're amazing. So I guess we're lucky. We all hopefully eat vegetables, and so it's always good fun to watch people, and people will come in and say, have you tried this? Are you growing this? Why aren't you growing this yet? Will you grow some for me? So that's good fun too.
And growing with young people, so encouraging young people to experiment with us. So all our help are teenagers at school. So you can start working with us at 13, and you can do 4 hours.
Yeah.
With the 2 hours and an hour and a half hour break. So they start very young from school, which means we get generally they've come to us because we won't take anybody that's been brought to us with their parents saying this person wants a job. The young person applies for a job, and then we know that's a good start because they're probably quite keen. And then they'll work with us. Most of them work through, if they go to university, don't they? Yeah. And stay with us.
So we grow our own stuff as well. So if you're a young grower, you might come and start engaging with us when you're like 2 or 3. When you get to around 9 or 10, suddenly it's kind of not so cool to go and hang out on the farm and do things with seeds. So that's when we get the power tools out, and we make bird boxes and bat boxes. And they go home going, Tracy and David, let me use the electric drill. And then when you're 12, you can be a volunteer helper for the younger growers, because you know that the week that you turn 13, you can come and do your trial shift. But also from our perspective, they already know us. they know the rules, they know the layout, they know how it works, and we can put them straight out in the field because, quite frankly, at 13, we're paying them £6.40 an hour, and that's more than we pay ourselves, so they've got to be ready to go.
Fabulous. Has anyone got another? Yeah.
What does the neighbor think about what you're doing, guys? Do they still think that you're completely bonkers? Have you convinced anybody that what you're doing is worth doing? We know that farmers are like the best people to convince other farmers, but we know that some farmers will also look at what you're doing and think you're just mad.
Yeah, my neighbours think I'm bonkers, yet at the same time constantly, quietly and privately ask me for advice. In public, it's, oh yeah, that's a bit weird. Look what he does. And quietly you get the odd WhatsApp being like, any chance you're around? Just want to come over. What are you doing in that field? It looks weird, meaning it looks better than mine. Why? As part of an AHDB benchmarking group, we then get to sit down and pick each other's numbers apart. And then they go, oh, you're quite good. Yeah, it works, doesn't it? So I know. That's why we're doing it. Oh, yeah, but it doesn't work for me. That's then normally the end of that conversation is it won't then work for me, which makes me then beat my head against a brick wall and go, fine, there's only so much I can do. But yeah, they all think I'm a bit weird, but I think that's perfectly normal.
Yeah, likewise. You know, there's lots of plants that grow on my farm that other people don't want. Well, a dock is a prime example. Everyone hates docks. Why does everyone hate docks? Because someone's going to sell you a spray to kill them. Basically, we've been G'd up that long to hate docks. My cows love them. They're bloody awesome, man. And they don't get out of control because I've cultivated dock beetles for the last 10 years. And they're doing the job. Now, everyone laughed at me when I said, you're going organic, how are you going to control your docks? I said, well, for one, the cows eat them. So they're controlling them. And for two, I got dock beetles. And they all laughed me out the room. And I got less docks than the majority of boys have that are using the sprays. So there's that. But no, they same as Ed. They'll laugh at you 1 minute and then, I'll think about growing this. How does this work? So you get sort of under-table advice given out, if you sort of mean. But generally thought of as a bit of a weirdo, but you know.
Obviously, again, we're a bit unusual because around us it's pretty much all grass farms and there's no really market gardens. So what we're doing is, it's not that unusual because there's no one else really doing it. So that helps. But what we have found is, because we've become quite popular, we're now setting up a whole, which is starting next week. We've had inquiries from 6 other people wanting to do similar things to us. So they want us to sort of set up a mentoring training type thing, and then they're going to start little satellites on their farms doing similar stuff because there's plenty of business. We're always turning away business because we just can't supply it all. So that we take that as a big compliment. Basically, we must be doing something, otherwise they wouldn't be coming to us.
So we don't want to grow our business, as in we don't want to become bigger and become disconnected from the land and be sat in an office organising lots of people and paying them lots of money, when actually we'd rather have our hands in the soil. So we want to grow more growers. We are in quite a desert area of market gardens, and from talking to other people and listening to other presentations today, there really aren't enough market gardens and fruit and veg growers. So eventually we decided to stop moaning about it and actually gather a group of people and go, do you know what, we've got 20 years experience we'd really like to share, and you've got farms, let's play.
Amazing. I will just have my own last question, because although I know it feels like only 5 minutes, it's been nearly an hour. So if there was one piece of advice that you could give someone just starting out or just starting to focus on their soils or going through a transition with their business where they're going from what they've always done to trying something new, what would your one piece of advice be? And you can't have one you've already said.
You need to know what you got to start with. And I know I've been saying I don't use no inputs, but 20 years ago I did soil test, and the results showed there were some imbalances. It's critical you sort those imbalances out before you try and go down that route. If you can't sort those imbalances out, you need to adjust your farming to match what your soil can do for you. But you need to correct anything which is inherently wrong with your soil before you start going down the route of trying to remove inputs, etc., etc.
I think you need to understand yourself where you want to be, rather than blindly setting out on a journey going, right, I'm going to fix my soil. I don't know where I'm going to end up. And so therefore, if you don't know where you want to end up, it's then hard to design a system to try and reach your goal. So understand what your goal is, what goal you're aiming for. Is it just to build organic matter? Is it just, to grow better crops? That's not a dirty assumption to make. Lots of people get very worried when you say, I just want to grow more. That's fine. But you've got to work out where you want to be. Otherwise, you can sort of be pushed and swayed down avenues that actually bring you no benefit and might actually inherently undo some of the other work that you've done with your soil. So yeah, have a direct aim of where you want to be, and then you can work backwards as to how to get there.
Yeah, mine was definitely a vision to get out of mainstream agriculture and do it a different way, and then follow that passion by creating what we wanted. So obviously I'd had lots of experience gardening and growing vegetables from a boy, and then turn that into something bigger to make it a business. So I think my key was the passion to get it started.
And I guess one piece of advice: if something doesn't work this year, try it again a different year. Because every year we will have something that completely fails. So if this year was the first year that we'd ever tried to grow broad beans, we would never have grown them again, because it was too wet and they just didn't come. But last year it was something else, and the year before it was something else. We might have 8 great years of celeriac and then a complete fail because we were trying a living mulch and actually it was competing for the same nutrients, and we're going to do it differently this year. So yeah, don't give up on the first go. And hopefully no farmers would give up on the first go, else there wouldn't be any.
And no, fantastic. It's my favourite question to ask of, what would your piece of advice be? And I always find it so inspirational of those sort of little nuggets of wisdom of how you've got here and ended up on this stage. So I'd just like to say, on behalf of everyone who you've sort of provided your knowledge and shared all that you're getting up to with in the audience here and on the recording and in the farm walks that we'll be hosting over the next couple of months, I'd like to say a huge thank you to you guys up here. So have a round of applause for our Soil Farmers of the Year. And without going any further, I'd also have to thank our sponsors one more time. So thank you very much to Hutchinson's and to Cotswold Seeds for all that you do and all the support we have and judging and funding and all those good things. Without them, the competition would be very difficult to run. So thank you very much. And of course, let's do a big clap for them first. And of course, another huge thank you to Innovation for Agriculture for their partnership, and again, all of the help that we get with comms and judging routes and everything else along the way. So a huge thank you to everyone who's been involved. As mentioned, we are doing farm walks with each of our fabulous farmers. So if anyone would like to come along, learn more, hear about what's going on, look out for further information on the Farm Carbon Toolkit website, equally Innovation for Agriculture, and I'm sure it'll be pushed through Cotswold and Hutchinson's as well. So I'd like to say thank you all very much for coming, and one final huge round of applause for our Soil Farmers of the Year.